The Scovill Zoo is home to over 400 animals that span 6 continents. They emphasize conservation through education and donations that fund and support conservation of both animals and the environment. Joining me today from Scovill Zoo is Heather, and I see you brought another friend. Who is this?
I did. This is Falcor, one of our bearded dragons.
Okay.
And you can see where they get that name. They have those really cool spines kind of around the edges of her body and on her beard, so to speak. And what they can do is kind of inflate that and make themselves look bigger, maybe not as so appetizing for a predator.
Okay.
And they can also do it just as displays to other bearded dragons, too, to make themselves look bigger and maybe for territorial or for breeding reasons. You know, they may bob their head and kind of inflate that throat pouch a little bit.
I was going to ask if mating was a part of that.
Yes, yeah, they'll do a lot of the bobbing and stuff when they're doing some breeding behaviors, but they're found in Australia. That's where they would be native. And you can see that she's kind of has bumpy skin all over besides the spines, and they'd be found in pretty arid temperatures. They like it warm. So on a day like today where it's really cold out, she would be very happy in her habitat at the zoo. And you know, we make sure we provide them with UV light, a basking light, so they, like I said, they like it really warm, so she can maintain that warm temperatures throughout the day.
I have so many questions. So like other reptiles, does she lose her tail if something like a predator comes and tries to bite it, or is that not something they're able to do?
Not like our leopard geckos will do that. She will not do that. But again, you do see them as pets a lot. So, you know, you hear about people all the time like, oh, I remember having one as a pet. And they can be really good pets. They're pretty personable. You can see she's kind of hanging out, checking us out as we're standing here talking. But they, again, you just have to make sure, do your research before you go and acquire a bearded dragon. You want to make sure you have the right habitat. Again, the UV, basking light. They need water sources because when they shed that skin, you know, they don't want to dry out. So you have to have enough moisture in there so they can shed that skin appropriately. And of course, a good diet for them. So they would eat a mixture of greens and some different insects. So they're omnivores, so you have to have a mixture of both. And we were kind of talking before this segment. She would choose to eat all the crickets and mealworms that we would feed her, but it's important that she eats her salad as well.
Right, yeah, I was sharing that I had a box turtle growing up that used to prefer worms over the tomatoes and lettuce and things like that my mom would have preferred she eat. And then does the bearded dragon have a long tongue like other lizards and reptiles, or what is their main sort of hunting? Are they ambush hunters?
They're kind of more the ambush hunters, but you can see they have a pretty big mouth and stuff, so they can crunch through. I mean, this is a pretty strong jaw that they can crunch through beetles and stuff. So, and they would eat eggs. They can get through eggshells, and again, they would eat all those flowers and greens and stuff at the same time.
And then are they egg layers, or do they give live birth? What is their breeding process?
They do lay eggs, and we actually got she and another bearded dragon from another institution. So we have a male and a female, but we don't keep them together. We would prefer them not to lay eggs just at our zoo, or at least not have fertile eggs at our zoo. But there's a few zoos now that are breeding them for zoos, so we can use them for ambassador animals in our programs.
And how are they in the wild as far as like on the extinction scale? Are they in any danger? Are they being hunted by, you know, other predators?
They're still they're least concerned right now, so they're still pretty well represented in the wild. However, that can always change, you know, with the changing in environments and any invasive species especially, you know, if they couldn't compete with an invasive species in Australia, which, you know, Australia always has issues with invasive species there, so.
And just native species that are terrifying.
Yes, so, I mean, they are competing with other predators for, you know, the same sort of food.
Right, and I notice these little dots on the side of her face a little bit. Are those sort of fake eyes to scare away predators, or are those something
over here on the side? Those are her ears.
Oh, those are her ears. Okay, so that's how she hears. Wonderful. And then what other questions do I have? I always have so many questions about the reptiles because they're so fascinating to me, because they're so different. And you mentioned, you know, how her skin is. And what about water? Does she need water? Does she avoid water?
Yeah, she needs some water. But again, she would be found in a pretty arid desert-like environment. But they do need some water. They may be able to get enough water from their food to survive. But they, again, need some of that moisture and stuff just to be able to shed that skin because, you know, like us, we do shed skin, but you just don't see it. We're not like a reptile that sheds it all kind of in one go, but they do need that, you know, and if they have problems shedding, sometimes it may be you may need to mist them just in order to peel that skin off. Yeah.
And you mentioned that she will try and puff up her neck and try and look bigger. What are her natural predators?
It would be probably some other monitor lizards, some snakes, and birds. So those, and dingoes in Australia.
Dingoes, really?
Yes.
Interesting. And it's funny because you would think just from the beard and the spine and touching her, she's very rough, and also her claws are very sharp. You would think other things would just know to steer clear, but maybe because she's tan, she looks delicious.
Yeah, and probably, you know, her coloring too would help her camouflage, you know.
That makes sense.
In a very arid, it would be a lot browner there than, you know, our green grasses that we see here in Illinois. And they're also semi-arboreal, so you will see them up in trees and on the ground, so you would find them in both places.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for bringing her today.
Yes,
she's been such a good sport. Thank you. For participating in this segment. Is there anything that we should know going on at the zoo right now?
The zoo's still pretty quiet. We open April 5th, which will be here before we know it. And we do have next month, Eagles is our Zoo Buddies class for ages 3 to 5. We have 2 sessions that you're welcome to sign up your preschool age child and learn all about eagles. They'll read a story, make a craft, and then as long as the weather is nice, they'll walk out to our eagle exhibit to see our eagles on exhibit.
To see the eagles. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And if you want more information about bearded dragons or the zoo, you can visit us on the web at CILiving.tv after the show.